is able to defend the president's logic, there are some major questions as to why the commander-in-chief decided to make such a vocal stand yesterday in what some say is just a local Michigan fight. So let's follow the money that could be a motivation. In this past election cycle, Big Labor was responsible for more than $143 million in political contributions. Of those contributions, 91% went to Democratic candidates. Just 9% went to Republicans. That is a decades-old trend. On average, unions have given 92% of their political contributions to Democrats and 8% to Republicans. So here with his explanation of why that might be, Mark Mix. He's the president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Hi, Mark.
Allison, good to be on with you.
Nice to have you. So what is your theory first on why the president decided to wade into this Michigan battle, which, by the way, 2 years ago, when this was happening in Wisconsin, the president said that's a Wisconsin issue, meaning let the state decide?
Well, in Barack Obama's autobiography, he said, I owe these unions. When they call, I return their phone calls. And that has paid off well for him politically. The numbers you mentioned in leading up to this question are just the tip of the iceberg of what organized labor spends in politics. We estimate, and sources verify this, that they're spending up to $1 billion on politics. And so a president that's benefited both in 2008 and 2012 from literally hundreds of millions of dollars that union officials spend that come out of the general treasury. This is not the hard dollars, which are voluntary, the PAC money. This is actual the get-out-the-vote drives, the voter registration drives. All those things that were touted as the reason why Barack Obama won, that's what he's defending here. The union's ability to compel workers to pay fees as a condition of employment that are used for that process.
Mark, I want to read to you a quote that the president said yesterday because it's a little bit confusing. Perhaps you can explain it better. The president said, I've just got to say this. What we shouldn't be doing, should not be doing, is trying to take away your rights to bargain for better wages and working conditions. Well, that sounds like collective bargaining, but that's not what this Michigan battle was about, as you just pointed out. It's about forcing workers to have to pay union dues. Is the president fighting an old battle here or the wrong battle?
Well, you know, I think when you can't defend the position you're taking, you have to rely on anything else that has some palatability. The fact is, this is not about bargaining. Workers in Michigan, all those workers that are now shouting right now, they'll still be part of unions, they'll still be paying union dues, but they'll choose to voluntarily. That's what this is about. It doesn't change any bargaining laws, except it will not allow union officials to negotiate contracts that say you must pay dues to get or keep your job. It's that simple.
So why didn't the president take this up 2 years ago when Wisconsin was battling over collective bargaining, which some say was a much more significant issue than just the union dues?
Well, maybe we'll give him a little bit of credit and say that it was a state issue, but then this is a state issue too. I think what's transpired is an election. I think politically he understands that out there debating public sector unionism, government unionism more appropriately, is an issue that's not a winning issue because the problems in Wisconsin are going to manifest themselves across the country here. That was just the beginning of that fight. This right-to-work fight, though, is purely about an individual worker's right to choose, and that's a different issue altogether.
The president also said yesterday, and I'll quote him again, he sort of made a joke or a punchline out of this. He said what they're really talking about is giving you the right to work for less money. So he was telling the crowd that if this legislation passes in Michigan, that workers would get lower wages. But in fact, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in their most recent report, said that that's not true. Workers in these right-to-work states, on average, get $7,000 more per year in their salary than in non-right-to-work states.
That's right, Allison. Unfortunately, the president was reading off a teleprompter and reading a script that was given to him by somebody else, because when you do the analysis of wages in right-to-work states versus non-right-to-work states, if you actually adjust for cost of living, which is the only meaningful way to compare apples to apples, it finds categorically that workers in right-to-work states have more purchasing power, more disposable income than their brothers and sisters in forced unions in states. So he was wrong there again, too.
Mark Mix, you're the president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Thanks for coming in with your perspective on all this.
My pleasure, Allison. Thank you.
Sure.